We will now call the Plan Committee meeting of August 8th, 2023 to order. Roll call, please.
Trillo here.
Lorick here. Kavich here.
Guzikowski here.
Oldani here.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
Let the minutes show that Commissioner Hanna is here, but her microphone was not working.
There it is. That will get us to approval of minutes of July the 25th, 2023. Everybody, please take a look if you haven't already. And if you're satisfied, there's no discussion, errors, omissions, corrections, motion please.
Seifert moves to approve the minutes of July 25th, 2023.
Guzikowski will second.
Roll call beginning with Christine.
Anna, I. Trillo, I.
Lorick, aye. Kavich, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Oldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Item 4 is review and discuss report on recent common council actions, of which there is none. Item 5, review and discuss the next report on the recent Board of Housing and Zoning Appeal actions. Sylvia?
On July 24th, the Board of Housing and Zoning Appeals reviewed a case for 1041 West Putes Road. They were requesting a variance from section 17.0401 to allow for a garage that exceeded the area that would be permitted by code. After reviewing the criteria with this case, the Board of Zoning Appeals voted to deny the variance. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions regarding the variance on the garage size? Just out of curiosity, how big was the garage and what was the factor that you think they decided on saying no?
So they were not able to find, their findings were that there weren't unique circumstances. So the code that applied to this property applied to other similar properties, and I believe they also found that there was no unique hardship. The size of the garage they were requesting was, I believe, 840 or so square feet, and there was a existing accessory building on the property already, which reduced the amount of square feet they'd be able to have.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay. Thank you, Sylvia. That will get us to item 6, which is review and discuss the report on the recent quarterly Parks and Recreation Commission actions. We will see that report September 12th, 2023. That will get us into new business and item 7A. Review conditions and restrictions for 7B building and development, a conditional use permit for a car wash facility at 2440 West Ryan Road. Carrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the last meeting, this was recommended for approval by the Plan Commission to the Common Council. It is for a car wash facility with an approximately 4,300 square foot building. It'll be an automatic car wash. There would be a small office component and vacuums in the central part of the property where the parking stalls would be. And just an overview of what was reviewed at the last meeting, there would be 2 pay kiosk lines, up to 4 employees per shift with about 2 shifts. Hours of operation are anticipated at this time to be between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. We don't know whether or not those vacuums will be available during office hours only or hours of operation, or if they would be available 24/7. While the report had mentioned 20 to 38 customers based on the information provided in the narrative, we learned at the last meeting that 200 to 250 customers per day were anticipated at the site. As of right now, in the conceptual site plan, 18 parking stalls would be provided for patrons and for employees. So turning now to the conditions. Computer's going haywire. Conditions and restrictions starting with section 2. The only addition here that is unique to this particular property is the setback requirements and easements that affect the property. Setback requirements are actually in Ordinance 1720. This property was actually part of a PUD dating back to, I believe, the 1990s. So those are the setbacks that are in the remainder of the conditions and restrictions. The rest of this is pretty much standard. In Section 3, uses allowed on the property are limited to those in the B4 General Business Zoning District. These conditions and restrictions in all applicable sections of the municipal code is amended. Hours of operation shall be between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. There shall be no outdoor storage, rental, or sale of equipment, merchandise, parts, supplies, vehicles, or any other materials on the property. All parking areas shall be striped, screened, and landscaped in conformance with approved site plans and Section 170505 of the municipal code is amended. Drive aisles for the facility, which were discussed at some length during the last review, shall be designed in conformance with Section 170414G of the municipal code as amended. This is specific to the drive-through portion. Dimensions for lanes, including a bypass, stacking spaces, and menu boards shall be included in plans for review and approval by the Plan Commission. That is strictly from code. So all menu boards would have to be dimensioned. We would have to identify them on the site plan. We would need plans for those signs. They are considered signs. And they are limited to 100 square feet cumulative. Landscaping on the south and west property lines shall be enhanced to meet code requirements and included in the landscape plans to be reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission as part of site and building plan review. Signs shall conform to code requirements, and that includes menu boards. All the rest is considered standard, so solid waste collection, recycling, snow removal, that's all required for every single property in the city that is not a single-family residential. Section 4, parking and access to the property, excuse me, shall be restricted to the existing cross-access easements over the property at 2320 West Ryan Road. There shall be no additional access to Ryan. This is a standing easement that has been in place for several decades. Parking and driveway access for the development shall be provided in accordance with sections 170501 and 170503 of the code as amended. These conditions and restrictions and plans that would be approved by the Plan Commission. Section 5, lighting, that's all standard per code, so all of those requirements in code would apply to this property. Under Section 6, bulk and dimensional setbacks, or bulk and dimensional requirements and setbacks. As previously mentioned, setbacks are per that previous ordinance. However, the lot standards, building standards, those are all per code. Transition and required landscape areas also per code. The setbacks pertaining to parking are per that ordinance. So the front or the street, that setback for parking must be a minimum of 25 feet, and the rear and the side parking has to be a minimum of 10 feet. And per code, all pavement needs to be a minimum of 5 feet. But that does not necessarily take into consideration transition zones, which would apply to this property as well. Section 7, time of compliance. This is standard. 12 months from the date of adoption is when this conditional use permit needs to be recognized and a building permit issued and the use started. And under Section 8, duration of conditional use permit, this conditional use permit is limited in duration to 10 years from the date of issuance of the conditional use permit. The owner may apply for an extension of this conditional use permit, and the process for that extension shall follow the procedures for approving conditional use permits as set forth in code. And with that, there is a suggested motion for Plan Commission consideration on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Before I go to the commission, does the applicant want to say anything or wait on questions? I will need your name and address, sir.
Yeah, but well, actually, I live in several states, but my address is in Kenosha, Wisconsin, 11007 65th Street, Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Great, thank you.
Okay. We were involved in the property from Bick and Save also, and we like the development, we like the proposal. The only disagreement we have, we'd like to move the number 8 off the restriction. And we had several discussion. It came to my attention on Friday evening from the car wash company, and they were talking about what is this restriction. trying to analyze it, we're trying to find out what it is. I spoke to Carrie this morning, actually yesterday, in regard of this. It's not an ordinance. It's something we discuss, it sounds like we negotiate with something. Did not make no sense at all, number 10 at all, to us. Because in 10 years, why would we come back?
Well, things change within 10 years. We standardly put that on this type of business because for all we know, Pick and Save won't even be Pick and Save in 10 years. More or less a car wash.
Yeah, but we talked to Carrie yesterday. We don't see the car dealer in 27 and Rossin.
Car
Yes,
dealer isn't a car wash. Go ahead.
Okay. There's many different, I have been in development for 30 years. I know very well most municipalities. This is the first time I ever come across this thing. This is the first time. So I'm trying to find out if it's a car wash, what dealer, what's the difference? It's a conditional use. You can come back and suppose that 10 years from now, you're not here or nobody here. What would you do?
You may not, we do it because one, the business may not stand. We've done this on 27th Street. We've done this to our last car wash. We just had one come into the city and that same 10-year restriction went.
I'm aware of it. Maybe somebody was not paying attention. I'm not going to talk about somebody else's, but gas station conditional use, big boxes are big conditional use, drive-through, Chick-fil-A's. I can talk about many different things. She brought to our attention about traffic control. Well, if there's a traffic, control of this, it's a good thing to have, So we just want to, I don't, so we like to have everything, we're okay with everything else, except the number 8, we like to move
Well,
it.
that's consideration for this commission to look at.
Okay,
But-
thanks.
But just for your information, I realize this is the first. Kind of proud about that, actually, that, we're actually setting the bar that way because businesses do change. And all of a sudden, we have standing buildings. We had a building that was taken down probably 5 years ago on 27th and Drexel, conditional use, and right now it no longer fits for the vision of what's going on that corner. We don't need a tire shop right there or whatever it was, oil change place. So as things change, that's why we put them on there. We've done that along the 27th Street plan
But
as well.
this development costs a lot of money, like Home Depot, like there's no different than a Quick Trip. A Quick Trip don't have conditional use. I saw several of them. What I'm trying to say is, this is, I never heard about it. I just want you to know.
Okay.
Unless you can tell me that there's a restriction. If you come back and this thing, this way, like suppose close down. Yeah. Suppose something. You have to attach it to a certain way. Nobody can say, I don't like the colors 10 years from now.
Another thing.
There's a lot of ways you can look at it. But
One other thing it'll help us with in the future, if we have a nuisance property that's a problem.
we talk about this property. We like.
No, I'm talking about any property with this, not yours specifically. So in 10 years, if we're not getting cooperation, conditional use can go away.
Then put
If
it in
all
an
of a sudden,
ordinance.
if it becomes a problem to the neighbors or the area, not yours specifically, but our city is designed that way.
Then
We're
put it
trying
in
to
an
protect
ordinance.
our residents.
If it's the rule for everybody, put it in ordinance, not make a condition for somebody. That's the way to go, if you believe that. Okay, thanks.
All right, maybe it will be one day. All right, we'll go to the commission. Christine, you look like you got something to say.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand, why do you want it to be, it's just 2 years between the 8 and 10. What's going to happen in those 2 years that you're really concerned about?
No, what do you mean 2 years?
You said you want it to be 8 years versus 10 years?
We don't
Okay.
want it at all, number
He
8.
wants a
Remove
lifetime.
number 8.
Oh, number 8,
Immediately, yeah.
okay.
He wants
Yeah,
a
normally
lifetime.
cities, they give you 1 year duration for building permits and stuff like that. Yeah, that's normal.
Okay.
2 years, some municipalities 2 years, but not building a building for several $1 million. And you say you can come back to it. It's not attached to a license. It's a car wash. It's a grocery store. It's a bank. It's a gas station. Those things are, they're not attached to a license. Okay, so, okay.
The investment in each building is different. I know you're a developer, but anyway, I was just curious, why is that conflict that you are,
We never saw something
Presenting
like this in my entire 30 years.
well, things change.
Yeah, I don't think, well, if it changed, we called several municipalities. Yes, it is. It came to my attention Friday evening. I made several calls to about maybe I'd say three municipalities for sure respond to me back. None of them has that. I can tell you that. And I was shocked. And I brought it to Carrie's attention this morning in our conversation.
All right, that's it for me.
All right, is that it? All right, Dawn?
Have we had anyone else refer to this?
So we are allowed by statute to assign durations or expiration dates to conditional use permits. So because it's in statute, we don't necessarily need to have it in the ordinance. We have several conditional use permits, but it allows the Plan Commission and ultimately the Common Council to determine whether or not a conditional use permit needs to have that duration attached to it, and it gives you the it gives you the authority to determine what is an appropriate time frame. We throw out 10 years as an option for consideration. If the Plan Commission and ultimately the Common Council determine that it should be a shorter time frame, a longer time frame, or no time frame at all, that's your discretion, but statute gives us that authority to do that, or rather the Plan Commission and the Common Council, the authority to attach that. And the mayor is correct. There are several instances, because conditional use permits are assigned to a property, if we have such instances where operations change, ownership changes, we end up with issues that are not necessarily covered by the conditions, or we're trying to get compliance and the conditions aren't being fulfilled. There are a lot of different things that can happen where the conditional use permit would then expire. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has to expire. At any point, the applicant can come in before that expiration date, renew it, and that's fine. That's what we have built into the process. It also offers the opportunity for the Plan Commission and the Common Council to say, things aren't working the way that we had anticipated, and these conditions and restrictions need to be amended. And that gives the opportunity for, we've had enough time to take a look at this. We've seen the operation. These are the concerns. This is what your new conditional use permit is going to be. And as far as time is concerned, we have had people who have asked for shorter time frames, but this is the first time I think that anybody has asked for it to be completely removed. I may be wrong in that, but we have assigned durations of permits to other conditional uses. Most recently for the car wash on Putes, same time frame.
Is that it, Dawn?
Yep.
Greg?
My only question is this going to be 100% a car wash? I know the previous one had dog wash bays in them. Is this only cars?
Sorry, my computer is going haywire. They actually removed all of that. So it is strictly a car wash on the Putes Road
Okay.
property now as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Chris?
Well, this falls in my district, and I was contacted a couple of times about this. I do support staff. I think that we have to have a duration. We've done it with other businesses like the car wash on Putes Road. So we're not setting a precedence. We're just doing what we have going on throughout the rest of the city. So we're being consistent, I think.
Is that it, Chris?
That's it.
All right, Don?
I don't have any questions.
Fred?
I have no problem. I support the staff on that 10 years.
Chauncey?
No additional questions, thank you.
Just my question, at this time, there's no vax, there's not gonna be vax?
No, there are vacuums.
There are vax?
Yes.
No dog wash, though?
No dog wash.
Okay. Is there anything from Assistant Chief Havey from Fire's perspective? He's signaling no. So, okay, I really do. Sure, come on up, sir.
We will, if we agree that whatever we approve today, if they have any concern, whatever conditions are today, operation-wise, time-wise, closing time, closing, the same operation, it's open 10 years from now, automatic renewal or something to apply for renewal, whatever conditions today, I'm okay. You have to attach it to something. I saw some, like there's a concern. She said, what if the hours change? What if this? What if this? You can attach it. If the conditions today approved, it should be automatic application to approve it again 10 years from now. If you brought something about the tire place, Houston, there's garbage outside, or if they meet all the conditions today, and they are operated the way you approved it today, 10 years from now is the same, then there's no sense to not renew it.
As long
What I'm
as,
trying to say is, that's why I think we can attach it to something. I'm okay with it.
yeah,
But-
we're gonna attach it to this document right here.
Yeah,
That's
but
what we're gonna
just
attach it
give
to.
to give you an open book, I disagree.
Eh,
That's all.
You can disagree, I respect that. Again, in 10 years from now, and I'm reiterating, if conditions change and suddenly the business is booming and you want to stay open an extra hour, you're not able to do that in the next one because this is forever. So it wouldn't be forever. You could come in and adjust as needed going forward.
Right. I mean,
You don't
there's-
want to be fair, you don't want to paint yourself in a corner either.
There's always the opportunity for amendments to the conditional use permit. So
Correct.
if something changes operationally that is not captured by these conditions, then the applicant has the opportunity, or whoever owns the property in the future, has the opportunity to come back and apply for an amendment to the conditional use permit. That's the process. That's also the process to renew. We don't have an automatic renewal we're allowed to do at this point. If that happens in the future, that's great, but at this point, there is no automatic renewal. But the conditions can be amended at request by the applicant. You go through the amendment process.
Correct. Okay. Any further discussions, questions? Motion on 7A.
Seifert moves that the planning commission recommends that the common council adopt the conditions and restrictions as part of the conditional use permit for a car wash facility on the property at 2440 West Ryan Road after a public hearing.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call, beginning with Dawn.
Hello, aye.
Oric, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski.
Aldani, aye. Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye. Hannah, aye.
Okay, moving on. Item 7B. Plan review. Review site, building, and related plans submitted by Brian Majeski, Oak Creek Veterinarian Clinic for additions to the existing veterinary clinic on the property at 8,000 South Howell Avenue. Carrie, once again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This property is also subject to a conditional use permit, and however, these additions do not require any amendment to the conditional use permit, just to be clear. There are no changes to the operations or any of the conditions that would be affected by this. The two additions would include the relocation of the existing dog run area, which is on the east side of the building right now. That'll actually be demolished and relocated to the north side. It would still be an enclosed dog walk area with basically an 8-foot tall wall around all sides. The addition on the east, where the current dog walk area is, will be demolished for an addition for lunchroom, storage rooms, excuse me, x-ray room, ultrasound room, isolation room, general stuff like that. So in addition to the building. In between the proposed relocated dog walk area and the existing trash enclosure, they're proposing also a patio area, and that's on the north. No changes to the existing parking or the parking lot lighting are included with this proposal. So on the screen right now is the existing site plan. You can see the hatch area is actually the location of the building. Sorry, trying to suppress a cough. This is the existing parking layout, and the parking that's on the far east was actually reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission last year, maybe the year before. Hasn't been constructed yet, but that approval is still there. Proposed, the two boxes show the two additions. So the orange includes the relocated dog walk area and the patio. The purple is the proposed building addition in the current location of the dog walk. So on the north, we don't have any real images for the patio per se, but it will be enclosed by a 6-foot tall metal decorative fence painted black. The dog walk area will be constructed with brick veneer to match the building, so it will look just like it was an attachment to the building itself. And that fence would be in between the dog walk and the trash enclosure. This is the proposed rendering, and as you can see, it also includes a part of that addition on the east, so there would be a window and a door on the north elevation for that particular addition as well. Then on the east, just a door, there is a ramp that they're proposing with that guardrail there. Brick to match the building again, no other changes to the east. And this is what the rendering would look like. It's a little bit of a different angle. This is not directly looking east, it's kind of like southeast. There is a suggested motion for consideration on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Before we hit the commission, applicant, would you like to come on up, say a few things?
Sure. Hi, Ken Cray, MSI General. We're the design builder working with Oak Creek Vet Clinic. I live in Oconomowoc, so nice drive down here to city very frequently. We've got a lot of projects, and it's fun to be down here. So
Nice to see the growth, and this building ain't that old.
absolutely, no, they're excited about the opportunity to provide the additional X-ray rooms, the ultrasound rooms, and just expand some of their service offerings. But again, they're just happy to be part of the community, and hopefully this, we try to meet all the requirements and make this as smooth as possible.
Thank you. Jocelyn, you want to start out?
Surely. Carrie, can you go back to the rendering with the outside area and the metal fence? Okay. Just a question for the applicant. What is this area again?
It's just a patio. The large window that you see there in the door is where the new break room will be, and so that's just an opportunity for the staff to go outside and have their lunch outside.
Okay, and just for safety purposes, where the pavement is there any parking close by there?
Not at all. That's a road that drives perpendicular to it. So
Okay, thank you.
That it? Okay, Fred?
Yeah, what type of fencing are you using for that walkway?
just an aluminum decorative fence, so it would be pre-finished. I don't think we have the exact style or picked out. I mean, we have an architectural rendering, and so it'd be something along those lines. The intent was not to have it be completely opaque and closed off to allow some ventilation through there. So.
Barry, does this fit into our standard for fencing?
I think for this is fine. It would be a decorative metal fence, and it's only 6 feet tall, so it doesn't even.
There's no problem then?
No, that's a driveway access for the property to the north, and it's far enough away from that. It's probably 16 feet, if I recall, the setback.
18, right?
18 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Don?
I have no questions.
Chris?
I have no questions either. It looks good.
Greg?
Maybe it's because of what's happening inside the building, but I guess I'm not a big fan of just the giant brick cube. No offense to whoever designed it, and I understand it matches the brick of the existing building.
Right.
But I don't know, is there any requirement on the city that we can add some type of architectural elements to it, as opposed to just a giant brick building from the front?
Well, I mean, this is going to be facing the parking lot. And
Okay.
this doesn't have the entire elevation on it, but I mean, if you would count the entire elevation of the east, it would meet it, and it's also set far ahead, and you can request that there be some architectural element to it, but there's no code requirement for it.
I mean,
Okay.
we're not doing signs, but would there ever be a need for a sign on that brick wall?
Thought of
No
doing
thought
that.
of it?
No, I mean, the reason it's that way is that's where the X-ray and ultrasound's room, and there's lead lining and all that kind
Oh,
of stuff. So
okay.
we were trying to just, you can't put windows there and all that kind of stuff. So that was the design.
And it meets code, so I mean, whatever, you can do it, so, okay, thanks.
Don, you're up.
Nothing for me.
Christine?
Nothing here.
Okay. No, I have really nothing either. Commissioner's pretty much covered it. Just I'm really happy to see them growing because it just seems like yesterday that they were in here building that. I know it's probably getting on about 8 years already, but it's great to see their business is doing that well. So,
Great people to work with.
so if there's any further discussion, if not, motion on 7B, I believe we're on.
Clerk moves to approve the site and building plans submitted by Brian Majewski, Oak Creek Veterinary Care for additions to the existing commercial building on the property is at 8,000 South Howell Avenue with the following conditions. One, that all conditions and restrictions of ordinance 2770 and relevant code requirements remain in effect. That the landscape plans are revised to meet requirements per ordinance 2770. 3, that the exterior brick building veneer meets the minimum 4-inch thickness requirement per ordinance 2770. 4, that the plans are revised to include locations for all mechanicals, transformers, and utilities. All mechanical equipment, transformers, and utility boxes, ground, building, and rooftop shall be screened per code. And 5, that all revised plans, site, building, landscaping, etc., are submitted in digital format for review by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of building permit applications.
Guzekowski will second.
Before I call the roll, I kind of messed up. I should have asked, is there any concerns from fire? As this is a building addition, I don't know if it's sprinkled currently, if it needs to be sprinkled with the addition. Mike?
Mike Avey with Fire. No comments. This is a remodel or renovation of a existing space, so no comments or concerns.
Thank you. Sorry about the last minute deal here. Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Roll call. Greg?
Lorik, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Aldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
And I.
Grillo, aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Item 7C, consideration of a temporary use permit submitted by Bruce Cornell, Edgerton Contractors, for a temporary concrete crushing operation related to the bluff stabilization project on the property at 8850 South Fifth Avenue. Sylvia.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is a temporary use permit at 8850 South Fifth Avenue. As shown on the screen, this is for a temporary concrete crushing operation associated with the building demolition on the property and the nearby bluff stabilization project. This site plan shows the one remaining building on the southeast of the site. In the teal area is where the staging and crushing would occur, and this map also shows the preferred trucking route as well. We do have a suggested motion that includes measures discussed by the applicant for how they will be managing the site in terms of hours of operation, dust control. All of the crushed material will remain on site after it's crushed to be used in future projects, which will minimize the trucking involved. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Sylvia. Applicant want to say anything prior? Sue, you're back there. You'd have to come up to the mic, or you can indicate no. Oh, okay. Thank you, Sue. Appreciate it. That's Sue winning. Okay, we'll go right to the commission then. Christine?
Yes, actually, I have a couple of questions. Can you go back to that? Oh, I see that the road, that the trucking with the blue dotted line, this is where the trucker are going to be using to go to the crushing site, correct?
To answer that.
So, is this on?
For the minutes.
Sue Winen with the City of Oak Creek. This is actually a city designated project. It's a city project. That road is, there will not be any concrete coming in from offsite or going to the other offsite. That road would be primarily actually associated with the demolition if they have to haul off waste material to the landfill.
Okay.
But there won't be any trucking of actual concrete associated with the crushing. It's all going to stay on site. Comes from within the site and stays on site.
Okay, so there will be no waste or no aggregate or any type of dust tracking on the main road?
So not the crushing permit is associated with that large building, we're actually demolishing in its entirety. So they're going to take the building down. They will sort out the steel and other recyclables. They will remove those, but then they will, at the city's request, crush the concrete on site where it will remain in a stockpile for future use in the project. So any trucking is not directly associated with the crushing permit. I don't know if I'm distinguishing this correctly.
Yes, my concern is the main road because I don't see here in the condition and permits how is this going to be cleaned up from after that hauling if it needs to be.
We have in the contract, in the bid documents, in the contract, in the specs that they will need to street sweep if needed.
Okay.
They have dust control measures interior, and they're going to minimize the traffic. So we do have the authority to have them sweep.
Other question is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. because I see a residential area just across. Isn't this a little too late for the crushing till 7 p.m.?
The site is actually, the actual crushing is set back quite a ways from the residential areas, and there's a fair amount of trees and vegetation. I don't think they're going to necessarily be crushing till 7 p.m. They typically will work till dark, and part of the reason is because basically the city wants to have this done as soon as possible and before winter. And given the time of year, they may not use those full hours, but that was what they asked to have access for.
If I live across the street and it's doing this.
I mean, if we have noise complaints, we can. It is a city project, so if we have noise complaints, we can ask them to stop.
And you have a schedule to meet, yes, I understand.
Yeah, and we can ask them. I mean, they've been pretty good out there. Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Dawn?
I have no questions.
Greg?
I have no questions.
Chris?
I had no questions.
Don?
Yeah, and one question. Is this area also considered part of the main contamination to the south, I guess that would be? Because I thought there was just a small strip or so many feet along the shoreline up top that was cleared to be worked on, and maybe it just has to do with digging. Was there any discussion about that?
So, do you want me to take that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how do I put it? The demolition of this building, the entire site is subject to remediation requirements required by the Wisconsin DNR, and the demolition of this building is part of getting the entire site remediated. So there is indeed a strip along the shoreline that has been separately worked on for being capped. This western parcel, we fairly recently acquired it from Wispark, and we are taking steps now to remediate that parcel. This is the first step of that. We do have the city's environmental consultant, Ramble, has been, they're in constant, they're overseeing the project basically to ensure that all environmental requirements and safety measures are met.
So does that all have to be completed before you can actually start crushing and working?
Yes, so they removed, we have a report on the building, and they've already done the asbestos removal and abatement. They have the report evaluates the building for special waste, like there were a few containers of oil, or if there's things with lead paint, and those have to be handled specially, and those will all be removed prior to, we've already done the abatement. That's been reviewed and confirmed by Ramble. They actually inspected it. And all that will be removed prior to the crushing, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Brad?
Is there any problem with noise for the neighborhood during the crushing?
I mean, my understanding, it is set quite a ways back. We have been active on that site for quite a long time, to be honest, with a lot of trucking. This is actually probably less than they've encountered when we've had major haul operations in the past, to be honest.
Really, there's been no problem in the past for noise?
No, I mean, at one point we hauled in, we had like 20,000 dump trucks haul in there and there was no issue. So if there is a problem, we will work with the contractor to mitigate it as best we can. They have the crushing operation and stockpile located on the north part of the site, like the northeast part of that teal, that green shape, in an effort to keep it as far away from the residential areas as possible. And there will not be any, there really won't be any hauling in and very minimal dumping or there's very minimal dump truck activity, so you won't hear the, the dump truck gates slamming or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Chauncey?
I do have a question about the time frame. Does that time frame include from the point that all the other activities start, like with asbestos and all that, verifying that all that's taken away and is complete? Because it's just 6 weeks.
What's the time frame exactly?
August 14th to September 30th is what it says.
Okay. I mean, we've already done the abatement, so the time frame is, and then we're doing some other activities now. We're pumping out some liquid that's in there that needs to be treated, and we're removing some other miscellaneous special handling needs. They are going to start demolishing the building. We have the raised permit. They anticipate crushing starting the 15th or 21st. So this starts after the activities, I guess.
Thank you.
Okay. So just a little bit on the time frame. I know it's kind of odd looking that it's 12 hours a day starting at 7. Our noise ordinance doesn't allow them to start till 7 o'clock. Typical construction site like this would probably crank up about 6 o'clock if you were in a quarry or pit. We don't allow that. So by them asking for 12 hours, they're looking for the maximum amount of light time that they can do. And with an end date of September 20th, it's possible they may do overtime.
Yeah.
So typically, because they bid this, and Edgerton's a darn good contractor, they're going to work their guys straight time and see what kind of time they're making. If they run into a situation where they got to do overtime, now they can do 10 or possibly 12 hours a day to complete that contract on time and on budget September the 20th.
Right.
So it's not to say they're going to be going 12 hours a day, every minute a day. This is also a unique crushing operation because all the material will stay on site other than, as Sue said, the metal that gets magnetized out and put in a truck. So the trucking is just a little bit. Believe it or not, I'm really excited about this because this really marks the start of that North Bluff not only being remediated, but that park we went through, that extensive park presentation we seen last fall.
Right.
This is the very first step, is getting rid of those buildings.
Right.
This will be our upper parking lots and things like that. So when Don talked about soil conditions, depending on what's found, that's where the parking lots will
Right. Right.
So,
And
I'm sorry.
yes.
I was just going to say, I have a suggestion, actually. I don't know if it's doable or not. Is there any way kind of to do like a flyer, a quick flyer to kind of distribute to this neighborhood, telling them, hey, just bear with us?
I want to say the neighbors do get informed.
Yeah.
Typically, it's within 300 feet, but,
Yeah.
with what's going on at Lake Vista, we try to keep them very aware because Fifth Avenue becomes a busy place, and it does affect them. As Sue, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but, she talked about the dust control. That's probably a big one.
Yeah. Yeah. And
But there will be less noise than all the trucking that went
yes,
on.
and I can add to that question. They did have a mailing, and they actually held a public open house.
Okay.
Everyone in District 4 was invited to attend.
Okay.
Those who did attend were overwhelmingly positive about this. One of the problems is that this building, apart from being a significant eyesore, it is actually an attractive nuisance. There's lots of, literally every person you talk to has a story of they or someone they know. Kids and young adults go through there. It's considered a spooky. They go through there for the thrill, but it's dangerous.
Okay.
Some of the buildings are nearing collapse, and sometimes they go back there for other illicit reasons. So the residents are actually quite happy to have it down.
Good, good.
Yeah.
All right,
Is a nice
thank you.
start. Just one other question, and then I'm going to ask if fire has anything. Is it gated right now? I know it's fenced. Is the fence going to remain, and is it going to be gated? So, like you say, people don't go out of there out of curiosity and decide to climb into a rock crusher or
Right.
anything.
Right. So it's actually going to be double gated. So currently there is a can you pull up the site map? Currently there is a gate all along. You can kind of see it in here all along Fifth Avenue and down the south part of the property. That gate, it's about 6 or 8 feet high, and it's locked. We keep the gate closed even when they're on site. It's locked every night. Within that exterior gate, that perimeter gate, around that green work area, they have another set of chain link fencing that also has a gate, and that is also locked every night. And it's also very clearly marked with construction site danger, do not enter type signs. So for that purpose, yeah, because we know people might get curious.
Thank you, Sue. Very helpful. Mike, from fire's perspective, this is kind of a unique temporary situation that involves you guys.
Yeah, Mike Havey with Fire. Good evening again. Working with Sue early on just to get a worker safety plan put in place and then the mitigation plan. So again, this building is structurally compromised. We'll be glad to see it go as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Any other comments, questions, discussion? Okay, seeing none, motion on 7C.
Or did you have something to say?
Oh, sir? Yes, come on up. I'm sorry. Yes, name and address, please.
All right. Patrick La Souza. I own the properties at 8955 South Fifth Avenue, 8943 South Fifth Avenue, and 3960 East Maple. I received no notice regarding a meeting for the Aldermanic District there on this project. The only notice I got was this mailer.
Is that right?
Look, I'm delighted that this is going forward, believe me. I do, however, because I do rent those properties, have concerns about the hours of operation, especially on the weekends. The trucking that has been going on for a long time down there has become part of the background noise, if you will, for everyone in that area. Adding this to it, I don't know what the decibel level is or the dB level is of a rock crushing plant, but I know what the level of a earth moving equipment or a piece of earth moving equipment is going to stabilize the bluff and haul the stuff around the site. If that type of activity is going to be going on along with the rock crushing until 7 o'clock on a Saturday night, I've got a concern. I've got a concern for my tenants. You've answered all my other questions with ingress, egress, the point of entry. Is there, the last question I have here, is there going to be a change to the elevation of the site? And is the primary objective of this project the demolition of the building or the stabilization of the bluff?
They kind of go hand in hand.
Okay.
Because this property will become part of what's North Lake Vista Park.
Yes,
And I don't know if you've seen the renditions of that.
I've seen that, yes.
As far as the grade goes, I would imagine it would stay the same because we don't want to incur the cost of digging down. The concrete itself, the crushed concrete, the crushed stone will stay there for a later use if needed. Sue, you want to come up, talk about it? She's the resident expert. He did. I think he did. He gave his properties, didn't
So I'll address the hours of operation first. On Saturday, they will not be working till 7 p.m. Typically on Saturdays, if they do need Saturdays, they work till noon or 2, a half day. And in fact, usually during the week, actually they're off the site by 6:30, and the last hour or so is just kind of getting everything organized. Regarding the grade change, right now, when we remove the overall site currently isn't being graded, and the actual footprint within the building, we will have a low stockpile of the crushed material, and we will probably have a low stockpile of soil that will be approximately 4 feet high. So it's not changing the overall site, and you will actually probably not be able to see it from the road. It'll be less visually impactful than the building. I don't know. Were you worried about us grading the whole site? This is the building, and as the mayor said, they're tied together, but this is specifically to the building.
You know, eventually there will be more work in the park as it comes through, you know, as we start the path down, the roadway down to the bluff and everything like that. That's planned. But this is the first step. So, is there any other further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, motion on 7C.
Lorik moves to approve the temporary use permit for a temporary concrete crushing operation at 8850 South Fifth Avenue with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that hours of operation for crushing be limited to Monday through Saturday between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. 3, that crushing is limited to concrete from the demolition on site. 4, that crushed material remain on site for future use in city projects. 5, that on-site dust control measures are utilized throughout the operation. 6, that no external signage is placed and that internal signage is limited to cautionary and directional signs. 7, that a site safety plan is shared with Oak Creek Fire and Police Departments prior to the beginning of the project. And 8, that the operation shall end by September 30th, 2023.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call, beginning with myself. Aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Oldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Hannah, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorik, aye.
Okay, before we adjourn, announcements. Dawn, market's still going on?
It is. We are celebrating National Farmers Market Day on Saturday. We've had record-breaking activity at the market for the first half of the season.
Okay. And since we won't be meeting, I believe August 17th is yet another pop-up beer garden at the square. So the weekend of the 17th, if you have nothing to do, visit the square, take in a band, and meet your neighbors there. So with that, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Grillo moves to adjourn at 6:54.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, beginning with Chris.
Guzekowski, aye.
Oldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Hannah, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorik, aye.
Kavich, aye. Good night, everybody. Thank you if you were streaming.